Some time ago, I built myself a battery pack using these cylindrical lithium-ion cells. I wanted to do that because battery packs made from these cells are pretty expensive. The cells themselves are pretty cheap, only about $5 or $7 a piece, but the labor to make them, I guess, or maybe it's just a lot of markup. So I wanted to do it myself, and I wanted to do it right. I looked up a lot of tutorials, and I made a video. And in that video, I said, this is the first time I'm doing this. This is not a tutorial. This is just you watching me go through the process. And I hope that the comments will tell me all the things I got wrong. And they did. I got a lot of things right, but I got some things wrong. So today I'm taking another stab at it. I'm going to build another battery pack. And this time I'm going to try to do it right. And one of the things I've done right is I had got myself a much beefier and more impressive spot welder that can blow some freaking holes through this nickel strip and make sure that it doesn't rip off. I'm Joshua Bardwell, and you're going to learn something today. You're going to learn about this spot welder at the very least. Let's do it. You probably already know that the reason we spot weld onto these cells instead of soldering is that the heat of the soldering iron damages the cells. And this is one of those things that's maybe debated among hobbyists, but not really debated among professionals who build battery packs for a living. Many hobbyists, including myself, have made battery packs with a soldering iron, and because we don't have a spot welder. And it seems to work. Seems to work okay. What I hear from the professionals who build packs for a living is that what is not necessarily an immediate, obvious reduction in performance, but rather that the failure rate of the packs goes up. They fail much sooner or at a much higher rate. And that rate may only be in the single-digit percents, but when you're building a lot of packs, it really matters. The bottom line is that the right way to build lithium-ion battery packs with cylinder cells is to spot weld. And here's the problem, a problem I ran into in the last video. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a spot welder. A good spot welder gets into the $200, $300, $400, $500 range or even more, depending on what you want from it. This sucker cost me less than $100, and it came somewhat recommended on Reddit and other places I looked as being able to do the job. It even says, and it doesn't say right here, but it says that it can weld 0.15 millimeter thick nickel strip. And it kind of does, but I'll show you. I've got two pieces of nickel strip. I've got the spot welder turned up to its max power. I'm just going to lay them on top of each other and try and weld them together. Bonk, bonk, and go. Now, I want you to remember that, and I want you to look at the size of that weld. Just look at the effect. Yeah, you can kind of see it getting through. You can see it getting through, but here, the ultimate test is the pull test, and you see they pop right apart. Now, there are things you can do to improve the performance of the spot welder. Most significantly, you cut a slit in the nickel strip, and that spacing makes the current have more resistance, and therefore it actually generates more heat, and it welds better. But there's no substitute for more power. So we're going to take this spot welder and we're going to turn it up, and I've determined that about 30 joules is roughly what we need for this strip. Look at the difference in the size of the electrodes. Okay, let's be fair. I'm going to put them right in the same place, same distance between them, and fire! Oh, look, it's practically stuck to the electrode. Holy crap. Look at that. And look, it literally indented it. And can we pull it apart? No. It is stuck together, good and stuck. This thing will go way higher. It goes up to, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Does it really? What's the max? I'm scared. There's got to be a max. That's not. There you go. 500 joules. I'm not going to do that because I feel like a little bit like, a kid who's been handed a pew-pew and doesn't actually know how to handle it safely. This is a serious piece of machinery. I'm going to turn this back down to the safe level. Like, do I need bigger electrodes to go up? Just because this thing can go to 500 joules doesn't mean it's safe for me to just crank it to 500 joules and push the button. Okay, so One of the things I wanted to do in this video is just introduce you to this spot welder. This is made by a company called kWeld. It is very hobby oriented. You can see here, I don't have it in a case, which is a little bit unsafe because this is just LiPo battery voltage. I could short circuit this very easily and destroy it, but I wanted you guys to see it because it kind of looks badass. I'm 3D printing a case for it right now, so if you hear in the background a 3D printer going, that's what it is. But also, I want you to understand that when you buy this, one of the reasons it's so cost effective is that you have to assemble it a little bit. It's not hard. You got to put some screws in, you got to screw some things together, and you got to maybe 3D print a case, although you can buy a case too if you want to. The other thing that's cool about this is this kit that you see here, pre-assembled. Okay, not entirely pre-assembled, like the electrodes come pre-assembled, you just have to screw everything together. That kit is about $350, which, given the capabilities of this spot welder, is a freaking steal. It doesn't come with a power supply, though. The power supply with capacitors and a transformer is another $200 or $300, and I was like, oh, wait, you mean I can just run it off a LiPo? Gosh, I have a million of those. So for a hobbyist, you're getting a super, super capable spot welder for about $350, which is a lot to spend, but if you're going to be building battery packs, like you could weld damn near anything. I think that a hobbyist is gonna need to weld, and given its capabilities, other stuff is in the like double or triple the price range. So I'm pretty happy with it. Anyway, let's build a battery pack. And this battery pack is going to be made from 21700 cells, 4900 milliamp hours. The goal here is to make a high density pack that I can use to run like my goggles and stuff, not a high power pack that we could fly with. You will not be flying off this pack, and there are some design choices we're going to make as we build it that will reflect that. So I think it's the P50B that I'm using. It's been a minute since I bought them. One of the things I'm going to do differently is that this time I'm going to use a 3D printed holder to hold the cells. In the last one, I super glued them together, and I do want to acknowledge that that is a technique that I know is used by professional manufacturers, but the problem is that if you super glue them together, then you're just relying on this PVC heat shrink to hold them together, and that's not the best. So this case, by the way, this filament was super damp when I was just like, F it, I'm sending it. No one's ever going to see this anyway. So the fact that it's all stringy and stuff, that's just, what are you going to do? The other thing that I want to do, though, so it's going to be 4S 1P, so we're going to put them in head to tail. The other thing that I want to do, though, is, like, this is just PLA. It's not very strong, and like, if you drop it, it's just going to crack. So we're going to have to find a way to reinforce this a bit. But let's just stick these guys in here head to tail. We're in a 4S 1P configuration. And I think I want to put something in between them. Oh, this is perfect. This foam tape, I never use this anymore. This is actually really perfect. I think it is. I bought this a long, long time ago for mounting receivers and stuff, and I haven't used it in forever because there's better stuff out there. So we're just gonna, okay, now let's see if it'll go back in the, yeah, that's gonna work. I think I have not screwed this up too badly. Yeah, very nice. It's just got a little padding in there, maybe a little bit of additional structure. So, and then that goes on there. Oh, yeah. I think that's a good start. The next mistake that I made when I built the first battery pack involves these little things. This is called fish paper, and it is, I don't know what it's actually made of, but it's designed to protect against abrasion. You're going to run the nickel strip across the top here, and that nickel strip can kind of wear through where the heat shrink is and short circuit the battery between the positive and the case, which is negative. So you put the fish paper on the top. Actually, I should have put the fish paper on before the plastic holder. Fine. In my previous video, I used 18650 sized fish tape on 21700 sized cells, which means it was too small and didn't cover it and perform the job that it was supposed to do. So, yeah, everything seems to be working out so far, but this time I've ordered the correct. The fish paper goes on the positive side only. The negative side, there's nothing to short circuit. It's just the whole case is negative. It's just this center part here that's positive and can ground to the case. Fantastic. We're going to cut our nickel strip, and we need the nickel strip to be about, how long? From center to center, say about 1 inch. So my ceramic scissors that can't short circuit anything, and we'll cut ourselves about 1 inch strips. The next mistake that I did is that I soldered the balance lead and the XT60 lead to the nickel strips after spot welding them down. So I would spot weld them down, then I'd come and I would solder it on. And if the whole point of spot welding is that we don't want to heat the cell with a soldering iron, that's kind of backwards. Now I did try to solder to the center to try to limit the amount of heat that got into the cell, but that's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is that you solder all the wires to the nickel strips before you spot weld them down, right? And that means you have to think a little bit about like where everything goes, but hey, thinking is big brain. So I have got a 4-cell balance lead that I purchased. And the reason I did it the way I did it was that if everything is soldered down, then you can like prep the length of the wires exactly right. But I'm just gonna wing it. And I think it'll work out okay. If I really cared, I would like figure out the wire routing for each of these wires and then run them. But I think this is actually going to be just barely long enough anyway, so it'll be all right. The balance leads are going to go in the middle of the strip, like so. But the outside ones, the positive and negative, are going to go at the end of the strip because it's going to fold over. You'll see what I mean as we get further into the build. So we have the central 3 wires soldered to the middle of the strip, and then the outer 2 go to the outside of the strip. I like to do the middle ones first because it sort of makes sense to me. The structure of this pack is relatively simple. We just have a 4S 1P. There's not like a bunch of parallel groups, a bunch of serial groups. There's not a lot of decision making to be made. In my original video, I go over things like sizing the cells, selecting the cells, and coming up with the structure of the pack. Like if it's going to be 4S 2P, should you build 4 parallel groups and put them in series, or should you build 2 series groups and put them in parallel? All these questions. I'm not going to get into that in this video. I also want to say, as a kind of a disclaimer, this is a very small and simple pack. If you're trying to build something like a 14S 6P gigantic burn your house down e-bike pack, don't use my don't. Just first of all, just don't. And then don't use my tutorial. Okay, so we got to do these right. So we're going to have the positive, and then this is going to be the first balance lead. See, that's the thing. I got to get these balance leads in the right order. So we're going to go from positive to here, and then all the way across to negative. I should probably mark this somehow. This is going to be, yeah, positive is right here. Okay, that is a positive terminal. That's going to be positive. See, good that I checked. And then it's going to go doot, 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 and that's going to be negative. And then we can make sure we get it right. I forgot about the XT60. We're not ready to spot weld yet. Plus is going to go like this. That's how we're going to do it, right? No, is it going to go like this? Yes, I think so. 30 joules. Now this will be the first time I've actually soldered on a battery. So we'll see how it goes compared to just doing 2 nickel strips together. 3, 2, 1. I wonder if it might could be a little hotter. The size of the divot isn't quite as much as I would expect from when I did the 2 nickel strips together. Let's turn it up to 35 joules and we'll hit it one more time. Yeah, cool. And then we fold this over Yeah, pretty happy with that. I might want to put another couple welds here, but I don't think I have room to do it. I don't want to blow through by hitting the same place twice. And I picked at it, and it seems pretty secure. So now here's where it gets kind of sketchy, because now these guys are connected on the other end. If I short this, I'll get sparks. So I got to be real careful here. At this point, I plug the balance lead into a cell checker, and if it reads correctly, then I know I have wired everything right. There's a very simple way to sanity check your build, and sure enough, 355555, it didn't give me any kind of weird cell error or anything. If I had gotten these wires out of order, we would get an error here. So that's a good sign. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tape the battery up. I still haven't soldered the XT60 onto the main discharge lead, but I'm not 100% sure how long I'm going to want it to be. So these wires will all just get bundled. Yes, they're going to be about the right length. It would be better to have them coming out the top or bottom as opposed to the side like this, but based on the length of the balance lead, there just isn't a way to do that. I know, because it's the second time I've built one. I'm just going to zip tie these to keep them together. I don't want anything to be under tension. There we go. That's pretty good. And then we're going to get some Kapton tape. I really wish I had the ultra wide Kapton tape. That would make this easier. We're going to wrap this in Kapton tape. I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a strip here to hold the leads in place. And then we're going to do a run around the top and bottom, and that will cover the terminals, which of course is important for insulation, electrical isolation, if you will. And then what I want to do is I'm going to put a strip like this, which will help the integrity of the plastic, I think. Just help hold it together. Could be wrong about that. That's looking pretty good. I kind of just want to put more Kapton tape on just so the whole thing is covered, just because it suits me aesthetically, even though it's kind of a waste of tape. It's not really doing anything. But it doesn't have a lot of XT60, does it? Alrighty, we got an XT60 on here now, and again, we're just going to use the cell checker to make sure we haven't screwed something up. Looks good. Cell checker's not screaming at me. We got a readout here from the XT60. It's not reversed. Everything is how it should be. We can go ahead and close this guy up. One of the things I want to do is add some padding to the top and bottom, because they know that's an impact point. And I don't think that double-sided tape is the right thing there. Instead, I'm going to use a different wrong thing. I'm going to use some alien tape, which is a thick double-sided tape, but it's going to be good. It'll provide some padding, and we'll just put this on top. I can think of, there's probably much better things that I could have used. Let's just give a little bit of padding there. It's something. It's just what I have handy. And then the way that I did this one is, I really like how it turned out. Okay, so we went the long way and we put a little cut in it so it could stick through. So that's going to be like this. Okay. So that the XT60 can go through. Let me let that cool down a smidge before we do that again. Yeah. Okay, well, we'll finish the video with the pack I already made. Yay, I made a battery pack, and hopefully it's better than the last one I made. I just found new mistakes that I could make with my new, more powerful spot welder. I'll put a link and a card on screen to the very first video I made, which was a little more in-depth, although you should read the comments to see the mistakes in that one before you try and follow along. And I'll see you in the next one. Oh, and a link to this kWeld thing. Of course, that's down there as well. No affiliate, just thought you'd want to know.